Blake Berman. All right, well, as Blake outlined here, this is the conundrum that you've got, really, for Paul Ryan. Say you hate the deal, but say you'll back the deal to get over the deal and move on with other deals. That is the mood in Washington right now, where you have to be sort of counter mainstream, but still mainstream enough to get stuff done. But John Paul DeJoria, billionaire, says, he didn't build his fortune not talking to the other side or not talking to those who disagreed with him. And maybe a kinder, gentler approach is what's needed. Now, John Paul, it's always good to have you. Now, I don't know whether Paul Ryan is that kinder, gentler approach. He is obviously walking a fine line here because he's got many angry on the right who don't want to keep going along. How would you advise him?
What I would advise them is that apparently you're the front runner because they think you can do something. They are unfortunately so split apart on different sides that they're hoping that somebody like Paul will bring them together. My advice would be to get them both in a room, let each one tell their side, the other one tell their side, just like you should do in government, and sometimes they don't, and then find a happy medium in between and move forward. Otherwise, both sides lose. Totally lose, because you could never get together for your strong vote. And you worked so hard to win over the Senate as well as the House of Representatives. Now you're screwing it up by now finding a way for both sides to agree. It's just silly as can be. So I would say sit them all down, let each one say their parts in a closed room among one another, and not leave that room until they find a happy medium. But realize the goal is you won the House and the Senate. The goal is make it work.
I think there's some what you say. But John, I think you and I chat about this when this dust-up first happened with John Boehner. The way I see it, and I've talked to a lot of the principal players involved, most of them who were really mad at Boehner, do you know what they were mad about? Just not being included in the discussions, not having that sit-down, not getting anyone in leadership to explain to them why their legislation, why their bill that had bipartisan support was not even voted on or not even brought up, and it ticked them off. Now, I don't know the drama and the intrigue behind the curtains there. Now, there might have been perfectly valid reasons not to bring certain pieces up, to focus on one thing, but it was not communicated. And how often have we heard this, John, in business and in politics, where, hey, I was out of the loop. No one's hearing me. No one's hearing my frustration. Enter Paul Ryan, who apparently seems to be almost like a priestly figure to both sides, who can talk to them. And that might be half the game.
I think a real key here is talk to them. In the past, they talked to each side, to the best of my knowledge, separately, rarely together. It's when you get them together and talk to them together in the same room, they really hear one another out, feel their emotion, feel why, and hopefully come to a happy meeting because they're really communicating.
But, John, I think it's worse. Sometimes it gets worse than that because, I think what hurt Paul Ryan this week, I don't think it'll cost him the speakership, is when Joe Biden and Harry Reid were saying good things about him. Even Nancy Pelosi. Now, if you're in the extreme right, you're hearing that, well, those guys like him. I don't, by definition. So gone are the days where this sort of bipartisan sort of camaraderie was a skill. Now it almost seems to be a drawback.
Yeah, it could be that even the Democrats could be waking up at the same time. They realize the people of America, we the people, know that government does not work the way it does right now. It just isn't working. That's why people like Donald Trump become so popular, and people say, hey, maybe it's going to work now because this guy's a little different. And, and I wish the other side had a Donald Trump, too, to create that kind of controversy so people could come out and maybe figure out a way where regular politicians make something work, where it's not just, hey, here's my promise, I'm not going to do it, but then I'm going to run for re-election.
You might offer the secret. You have some pretty pricey booze. I mean, maybe you can ship a case to Washington.
Yeah, ship them some Patron. I'd love it. Now, if they sat down and sipped on some Patron, they get all relaxed, all comfortable.
They wouldn't even know where
the
they are after a couple of glasses.
Flow.
Yeah, they'll just sign on the dotted line.
They'd feel good, though, but they would feel good. Just don't drive. They'd feel wonderful.
John, thank you. Very good seeing you. John Paul DeJoria.
Always a pleasure.
From nothing, he made a fortune.